Hi guys. I am here. It's Coach Amy, and I'm here to tell you and your parents or whoever you're watching this video with a little bit about baseball basics. I know it can be hard to listen to some of the rules and expectations on the field because there's so much going on and we just want to play. So we're hoping that this will be a helpful way for you and your parents to just sort of have a better idea about the rules of baseball in the minor league. All right, so basics to begin. This is what a baseball field looks like from above. We call it a baseball diamond because the infield is a square on its tip. It looks like a diamond, right? Boop, 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 boop. There are three bases plus home plate. Home plate is where batters stand to bat and where runners are trying to get to score a point or a run. Each time a player is able to run around all three bases and get back to home, the team gets a run or a point. And of course, the team with the most runs at the end of the game wins. Every inning, we need to get, well, the team on the field is trying to get three outs. Three outs ends and half of the inning. And as if you're up to bat, you're trying to get as many runs as possible. In our league, we play a 6 inning game. That means both teams have six chances to score runs and six chances to stop the other team from scoring runs. The team that's hitting the ball and trying to score runs is playing offense, and the team with the players in the field is playing defense. And we'll talk more about that later. So, the field is made up of fair and foul territory. These white lines show where fair territory ends and foul territory begins. Anytime the ball is in fair territory, so this whole area here, it's a live ball. Plays can be made. If the pitcher's holding it, then you have to be on base, but still things can happen. Okay? If it's in foul territory, which means on this side of the foul line or on this side of the foul line, it's what we call a dead ball, and play stops. Runners can't advance or go forward to the next base when the ball is out of play, unless they were already on their way to that base before the ball went out of play, and we'll talk more about that later. Also, there are two dugouts. The dugouts are where the players and coaches stay when they aren't in the field or up to bat. When you're in the dugout, you still need to pay attention to the game, listen to your coaches, and cheer on your team. So let's talk about being in the dugout. All right, when you're playing a baseball game, you're going to be in there quite a bit, okay? Being in the dugout or on the bench, not every field has a full dugout. Sometimes it's just a bench. Does not mean you're still not part of the game, right? It's okay to drink water or even have a snack if you need to, but it is not a time to goof around and not pay attention. If your team is on the field, you need to cheer them on, pay attention to what's going on in the game, encourage your pitcher, remind your fielders to be ready. If your team makes a great play, cheer them on. If somebody makes an error, encourage them. Say, it's okay, you got this, next time. If you're in the dugout and your team is up to bat, you're going to cheer on your batter, but you also need to pay attention to the lineup so you know when it will be your turn to bat. If you're up after the person that is hitting right then or right now, you're what we call on deck and you should be ready to go. Some fields, like ours, have a next batter's box. And if you're going to be next, that's where you should be, timing your swings and making sure you are ready. So let's talk about hitting and running. So when we're playing offense, when we play an away game, we're offense first, which is when um, we're up to bat first. So every game, we're going to have a batting order. And in our league, it doesn't matter if you're going to be playing on the field that inning or not. When we are up to bat, when we are playing offense, every player gets to be um, on in what we call the lineup. So the lineup is the order that the players bat. Coach Andy and I are going to decide the batting order, and everyone gets a turn. So don't worry if you aren't one of the first to bat, or if you don't get a chance to bat in the first inning, or even the first few innings, you will get a turn eventually. Sometimes you're going to get a few turns for a game. Sometimes you might only get one or two turns. Kind of just depends on how the game goes. But everybody should be getting at least one turn to bat. And when you go out to bat, you have to have two things, a bat and a helmet. You're going to stand in what's called the batter's box, and there's actually two. Depending on what hand you throw with, will determine which box you stand in. Most people are right-handed, and that means they throw with their right arm, and that usually means they also swing right-handed, and they're going to stand in the left batter's box. Sometimes some people are left-handed though, and then they stand in the right batter's box. Once you're inside that batter's box, the pitcher can pitch the ball for you to try to hit. If you're not in the box, they can't throw it. Okay. And if you go out of the box a lot, the umpire might talk to you and say, you got to get in there because it will just slow the game up, right? All right. So when you're up to bat and you're standing in that batter's box, the pitcher is going to throw the ball for you to hit. They need to throw the ball into what is called the strike zone, right? That is what that yellow box right here is showing, the strike zone. And they're not going to throw it perfectly every time, and you're not going to hit it perfectly every time. So you have a few chances to hit it, and they have a few chances to throw it well. The umpire is going to stand behind the catcher and watch to see if the pitch is inside or outside of the strike zone. They keep track of how many balls and strikes you have, and that's called the count, which we'll talk a little bit about in a second. So when you're up to bat, there's a few things that could happen. One of the things that could happen is the thrower or the pitcher throws the ball outside of the strike zone and you don't swing because it's outside of the strike zone, and that's called a ball, right? Another thing that can happen is the pitcher throws the ball and it's inside the strike zone and you still don't swing, and that's called a strike. If the pitcher throws the ball in or out of the strike zone and you swing but you miss it, that's also a strike. So if they throw the ball way over here and you swing and miss, it's still a strike. Doesn't matter that it wasn't in the strike zone. If the pitcher throws the ball in or out of the strike zone and you swing and you hit it into fair territory, this is a hit. The ball is live and you need to start running to first base. The other thing that could happen is the pitcher throws the ball, you swing, you hit it, but it goes into foul territory. That's a foul ball. And it counts as a strike towards the count, but you can't strike out on a foul ball. Now, if a foul ball is caught in the air by a fielder, including the catcher, it can be an out, right? Um, but you can sometimes you barely hit it with the bat. And that's a foul ball too, even if we call this tipping the ball or getting a piece of it. If it just tips the bat and the catcher catches it, that's not an out. But if you hit it and it goes way up high and the catcher catches it, it can be an out, right? So when you're up to bat, you're either going to hit the ball or you're going to strike out. When you get a hit, you put the bat down, you run to first base. And we're going to talk about that. And if you strike out, which could be you swing and miss, or you watch the ball go by, you don't swing and it was in the strike zone. If you get 3 strikes, you're out. And you're going to take your bat to the dugout, and the next batter will go up, unless it was the third out, in which case we're going to get ready to go back in the field. Now, there is something called being walked or getting walked. And when we're older, if the pitcher throws 4 balls, you get to walk to first base, and it just means you get to go to first base without having to like worry about beating the ball. Um, but in our league, in the minor league, if the pitcher throws 4 balls, the coach is going to come in and pitch, and that's just going to try to give everybody a chance to get some hits and get the fielders practice and some time making plays. It's really hard to get the ball in the strike zone, so we want to keep the game fun. Okay. The count is something that the umpire keeps track of, and that just lets us know how many balls and strikes, right? A full count is when you have 3 balls and 2 strikes, and that's when you want to just protect the plate and do your best to hit it because the next time is either going to have to be a strike or a ball if you're at a full count, unless you get a foul. Just remember the umpire is the one that decides if a pitch was a ball or a strike, and nobody can argue with them, not even the coaches. So sometimes umpires allow for a bigger strike zone than others. So it's your job as a batter to do your best to swing at anything that is in or close to the strike zone and to watch to see how the umpire is calling pitches, right? If it's a strike, umpire will call out strike and usually point something like this person in the picture is. And if it's a ball, they usually just say ball. They don't point. So running bases, let's look at this person. She hits the ball, she drops the bat, and she runs towards third. Now, she's a left-handed hitter, so she had to kind of turn out and in. So each base is like safety and tag. And if you're a runner and you're touching any part of that base, you're safe and you can't be tagged out. But if you leave it, then you could be. And only one runner is allowed on one base at a time. So if someone's on the base in front of you, you can't go until they go to the next base. When you hit the ball, you need to run to first base as fast as you can. You're now what is called the batter runner. Because if the fielders get the ball and touch first base before you get there, you're out and you'll go back to the dugout. Let's watch this video again to see how she puts her bat down. She doesn't gently place it down, but she definitely doesn't throw it. Let's watch this again. Swings, see, drops it and runs, right? That's how to safely drop your bat. You can drop it kind of anywhere in this area. You don't want to put it here because if you have somebody coming in, they could get hurt. You want to drop it away from there. Okay? All right. So when you're running to first base as the batter runner, it's the only time that you're allowed to run through or overrun a base safely. And that just means that you can run it at full speed, not stop, keep going, and then you slow down and turn because you have to outrun it and it takes a little extra time. So if you're running to first base, you're going to run as fast as you can, touch, keep going. All right, slow down, and then you turn this way, and then you come back to it. Okay? You can do that for first base and first base only. Run right through it. Okay. However, let's say you got a really good hit. You hit it way out and they're still trying to get the ball and you have run and your first base coach will help you decide. They're going to say turn, go second. You're going to touch it with your foot and then you're going to run to second. Probably stop there, but maybe not. You'll look at your third base coach and maybe you'll keep running. Okay? Kind of depends on how the hit was and what the fielders are doing. So you got to pay attention. And we will have base coaches helping you with that. All right, if you're safe or you're out. So if you get to the base before the other team gets the ball and touches the base, you're safe and you get to stay, right? But if the other team gets the ball and touches the base with any part of their body before you do, you're out. So if you're safe, you stay on the base. And if you're out, you just jog back to your dugout. It's okay to feel frustrated when that happens, but don't get upset. It's just part of the game, right? And once again, remember, the umpire makes the calls. They're the king or queen. They say if you are safe or you are out, and you have to listen, even if you don't agree. Usually, if it looks like the ball and the runner got to the base at like the same time, the umpire will give the tie to the runner. But it is up to the ump and no one else. So no arguing with the ump. All right. So once you're on base, another batter will be up to hit. You're now a base runner. It is your job to pay attention to the game and know when you can run to the next base. Sometimes you're forced to run and sometimes you're not, and we're going to have a base coach standing next to first base and third base to help you decide what you will need to do, but you should always be paying attention, okay? In our league, we cannot take traditional baseball leads, which means getting a head start towards the next base while the pitcher has the ball. However, as soon as that ball passes home plate, you can start to run towards the next base. And depending on what happens, you're either going to continue to run towards the next base or you'll go back to the base you were at. You always want to be ready to run, okay? See how this player is standing? They're ready to run forward. As long as one part of a foot is touching the base, they're safe and on base, okay? Because if you leave the base before the pitcher releases the ball and it passes home plate, you could be called out. Right? See, this person is ready. They're going to run forward. All right. So I'm going to pause this. We're going to talk about that in a second. So when you're running around the bases, you must touch or tag each base, even if you plan to keep running towards the next base. If you fail, if you don't touch the base, you have to go back and touch it. Otherwise, you'll be called out. Now, you can touch it with your foot. You don't have to touch it with your hand. In fact, you'll almost never touch it with your hand. Um, Now, if it looks like the other team is going to be close to getting you out, you're going to want to slide into the base. But if it's not, if they're way out and you're not going to have a problem getting there, you're going to stay upright and just stop on that base. We're going to learn how to slide safely at practice, and we only are allowed to slide feet first. Um, I'm just going to show you this short video just to give you an idea of what sliding looks like, even though we're going to have time to practice and learn it at practice. See how this person's foot, one leg kind of bends, goes under the other one, and they're sliding sort of on their hip and like their thigh, the side of them. So we're going to learn about that. So as a base runner, another important rule to know is you have to keep your helmet on at all times. If you're running or you're sliding and it falls off, you can keep going, but as soon as you make it to the base, and play stops, we'll call a quick timeout. You can get your helmet and put it back on. Okay, so if it falls off, you don't have to go backwards, but you want to try your best so it doesn't fall off. Okay. Also, just a note to you and to your parents, if you have your own helmet, please make sure it's clearly labeled with your name, especially if you don't want somebody else to wear it. We have a lot of gear in the dugout. It's hard to keep track of who's whose and what's what. So let's make sure everything's labeled clearly. All right, so let's go back to whether you need to run or not. If there's a runner on the base behind you, you're forced to run to the next base. You really don't have a choice. So if I get my marker here and I say, let's say you're here on second base and there's a runner on first base, right? Somebody hits the ball, they're going to run this way, which means this person has to run this way, which means you have to run this way. Otherwise, there would be two people on a base and that's not allowed, and one of you will be out. Okay? So you have to run if there's somebody on the base behind you. Um, Occasionally, if the ball is caught before it hits the ground, you will have to run back, because you can't run forward on and out, right? So it'll kind of depend. Listen to your base coaches, pay attention to the game. We'll practice all of that stuff too, right? Now, sometimes you're not forced to run. Let's say you're here on, whoops, I went backwards. How did I do that? Whoop, sorry, guys. Trying to figure out how to go back. Okay. Try that. So let's say you're here on second base and there is nobody on first base here. Okay. If that happens and the batter hits, you may not run, but you might. It's going to kind of depend on where the ball is. You're going to listen to your base coaches. So you just want to kind of pay close attention to your base coaches, and we're going to practice learning more about when to run and when not to. Just know that sometimes you have to, but sometimes you don't have to. So just pay attention. Okay. Now, sometimes you can run to the next base even if the ball wasn't hit. Okay. So if you're on first or second base, once the ball passes home plate, you can take a risk and run to the next base, and that's called stealing. In our league, we cannot steal home, but we can steal second or third base. So, why is that doing that? No. Uh, my screen is being wonky. Sorry. Sorry. Okay. Um, So we can't steal home. You can steal second base or you can steal third base. And there's reasons for this. I'm not going to get too much into it right now. But it's a risk because if the catcher sees that you're doing that and throws it to second and they tag you, then you're out, right? So you're leaving safety when you do that. And a ball can be thrown faster than you can run. So you and the base coach are going to kind of decide together what you should do. All right. Now, if you're able to run to home plate at any time during an inning, you've scored a point for your team. You're going to go back to the dugout, put your helmet away, find your glove, and get ready for the next part of the game. So now let's talk about playing in the field. We're going to be playing defense when we're in the field, trying to keep the other team from scoring runs. We want to try to get 3 outs as quickly as we can so that we can have our chance to get more runs. There's a lot more involved in playing defense, so we're just going to go over the positions here, and we're going to learn how to play those positions more in practice during practices. So there's 9 field positions in baseball. There's the pitcher, the catcher, first base, second base, shortstop, base, left field, center field, and right field. So the pitcher, I think everybody knows what the pitcher does and where they stand. They are an infielder and they stand on the pitching mound. They throw the ball to the catcher and, well, for hopefully for the batter to hit, or the catcher to catch, right? But they also field the ball if there's a hit. So once they've pitched the ball, they can leave that mound to make plays. And pitchers need to be able to throw very accurately. Then there's the catcher. The catcher is also an infielder. They stand behind, or they kind of squat behind home plate and catch the pitches that are not hit. They also cover home plate to catch the ball when trying to get a runner out. They need to be able to catch the ball consistently, and they need to be able to throw it to the pitcher, but also sometimes all the way to second base if somebody's trying to steal. The catcher wears extra padding to protect them from getting hit by a pitch or a foul ball. Then there's the first baseman. They're an infielder and they stand pretty close to first base. They don't stand on top of it. Okay. Um, and they want to catch the ball to get a runner out. So if they didn't field the ball, if they didn't get it off the hit, they're going to run to first base. They're going to get there and they're going to be ready to catch the ball to get that runner out. And first basemen need to be able to catch the ball even when it can be kind of hard to catch. We're not always going to throw it perfectly. And so they need to be able to really stretch out and get that and touch the base to get the runner out. Then there's the second baseman playing an infield. They stand between second and base, but closer to second than first. But again, not right on top of it. They field the ball when it comes towards them, right? If it's a grounder or a line drive or even a pop fly, right? But they also cover second base to catch the ball to get an out if someone's running towards second base. So second basemen, they need to be able to make a quick decision about when they could get an out at second or first. If there's somebody running from first to second, they might be able to get something called a double play. They might be able to get the runner going to second out and then turn and throw it to the first base to get the out. So if you're playing second, you need to be able to really make decisions quickly and be fast. All right, shortstop. They stand between second base and third base. So they don't have a specific base that they cover, like second base or first base. But they field the ball when it comes from them, but they can also cover second base or third base. So if the third baseman had to field the ball, shortstop comes up and covers the base. If the second baseman had to field the ball, shortstop has to run over to second and cover that base. Shortstop also, they've got to be really good at fielding the ball. They're going to get a lot of grounders. They're even going to get pop flies and some line drives because most people are right-handed and they hit the ball towards shortstop in that area. So they need to be able to get a lot of those. They also need to pay close attention because they have to cover so much. They have to know, do I have to cover second base or third base right now? All right, then the third baseman. That's the last infielder, and they stand near third base, not on top of it, and they field the ball when it comes towards them, and they also can run into foul territory to catch pop flies to get an out. Now, first baseman can do that too, but it tends to happen more for third base just because more balls are going to go that way. So they can catch a ball before it lands, even if it was in foul territory, and that gets the batter out. And then, of course, they also cover the base to catch the ball to get it out. So if there's somebody on second and then they're running to third and the shortstop gets the ball, the third baseman has to be there to catch it and get them out, right? Third basemen need to be able to throw the ball pretty far and accurately because a lot of times they're going to have to throw it all the way to first base. That's a pretty far throw. All right, now let's talk about outfield. There are three outfield positions. The left fielder stands on the grass between second and third base here, okay? And they field the ball when it comes towards them. So they back up third and shortstop. So sometimes, even if it's a grounder, it goes through your third base or shortstop. So you're going to back them up, okay? But also, if it's a big hit and it's a pop fly, they're going to be going and catching that and then paying attention to see where they need to throw it next to prevent other runners from getting a next base, right? A lot of balls come out this way. So they got to be really paying attention and they're going to have to be able to throw it pretty far. Now, left field doesn't usually throw it all the way to first because if the ball went all the way out there, most likely they're not going to get it to first base in time, but they're going to throw it to second to keep that runner from trying to get second or throw it into the pitcher. So they still need to have a good arm. All right, then there's center field. They stand on the grass behind second base. They might be a little to the left or a little to the right. And of course, they're going to do the same thing. They're backing up the shortstop and the second baseman. If the ground balls go by, they're going to get pop flies. They need to be able to throw the ball really far and accurately too. Sometimes the center fielder will throw it to first base. Usually they're going to throw it to second base or the pitcher, but sometimes they're going to throw it to first, and sometimes they might even have to throw it to third. And then the last position is the right fielder. They stand on the grass between first base and second base and field the ball when it comes towards them. They back up the second and first baseman, and they need to be ready for those pop flies. And of course, they need to be able to throw pretty far and accurately if they're getting the ball way out and out the outfield. One of the special things about the right fielder is they're a player who needs to have a lot of patience and be able to just sort of be patient and pay close attention because right field tends to not get quite as many balls hit towards them. They can't lose focus because of that. Because the moment you lose focus, that's the time the ball is going to come to you. And if you're not ready because you think, never going to come to me, then you're going to not be able to catch the ball. So, right fielders have to have a really good arm, be really good at getting those pop flies, and also have really great patience and stamina for paying attention. So, it's a really important job. So those are the positions. That's all we have for the basics of baseball. I hope this was kind of helpful. I don't expect you to memorize all of this, but thought it might be a helpful tool or strategy to get you guys ready for some more practices. So I can't wait to see you at our practice this week. Have a good rest of your week.